Welcome, everybody. This is the Amateur Hour Podcast. My name is Jacob, and yet again, Deshaun is joining me for some NBA content today. How you doing, Deshaun?
How you guys doing?
Today, we are going to be talking about the Toronto Raptors. We are both Toronto Raptors fans. We're going to assess what they've done this season, and we're going to decide what their ceiling is for the rest of the season. Deshaun, would you like to get us started? You were excited to talk about this.
Yeah. Well, so far in December, the Raptors have gone from a team that, beat the Lakers and battled with the Clippers and, beat Philadelphia the way they did, holding Joel Embiid to no points and a very spirited, playoff atmosphere game, to now losing against Miami, losing against Houston, losing to the 76ers, and then also we have a loss against Boston. And what it's kind of telling me is the teams who are right around your level in terms of seeding, record, playing ability, eye test, they're not getting it done. But the teams below that, they can beat up on. Basically, this, when we went through that Western Conference trip, no Ibaka, no Lowry, I'm like, once we get Ibaka and Lowry, we played so well without them, they're just going to push us to the point where we are a number one, number two, and we are a contender, and we can go back to back, or at least have a shot where we're not, not kind of disrespected, the point where we can actually be respected, we are a very good basketball team. We will contend. We can make the conference finals or the finals. And right now, I don't think I don't feel the same way just because of the eye test. It's tough to judge, but when you have so many games that are very close against these good teams and you don't come out on top in any of these games, it lowers what I thought their ceiling was. So I definitely thought their ceiling was another conference finals. I thought they could get to the conference finals. They just wouldn't beat the Bucks this time. But right now, I say second round is their ceiling. That's what I'm looking at. Is I say they can win a playoff series if it's against the right team. I think if we get faced up with Indiana, we beat them.
You're not scared of Indiana?
No.
I'm scared of Indiana.
No.
This team is 18-9 without Victor Oladipo.
No, I understand. Malcolm Brogdon's balling out.
So is Sabonis.
Sabonis is nasty.
So is
Turner's nasty.
Turner.
Their team is playing.
So is TJ Warren.
Yeah, their team is filled with a lot of efficient players, and they play a good style of basketball. But I'm saying when it comes to a team that I would like to face in the playoffs, if you're giving me all of those teams,
well, yeah,
I would like to
out
face
of the top
Indiana
6 right now.
I think Orlando's in the playoffs, but they're trash. I like to face Orlando, but we're never going to. Indiana's a realistic opponent for us. I think Indiana's, and then I think Miami is. I want to say Miami's in the same boat as us, where they're right on record-wise or seeding, where we could also face them. So those are two teams, and obviously we've played Miami. We can battle with them. They're not too big, so when it comes to those teams, I think we can obviously have a series to compete against them. But right now, from what I'm seeing, I don't know if we compete against the Sixers. I think we can battle against Boston. I don't know how well that series goes in our favor. So I just think their ceiling is a lot lower than what it was before.
I think the ceiling remains conference finals. However, I think the likelihood of that has significantly decreased. I'm not going to hold that stretch against Houston, Miami, and Philly against them because you're reintegrating Kyle Lowry and Serge Ibaka into a team after injuries. They weren't themselves in those games. Ibaka hasn't been hitting his elbow jumpers
Does he ever hit those elbow jumpers?
Yes. That is Ibaka's bread and butter.
No, that may be his bread and butter, but I don't know how many times, especially in the playoffs last year, you can watch him shoot that, and it's just
Ibaka at the start of the season was hitting that shot. He is the only guy on the Toronto roster who's allowed to shoot the mid-range shot. Nobody else is shooting from mid-range. You can watch any game. Only Ibaka is shooting the mid-range shot because they know how good he is from there. But regardless, Like, let me just finish the point.
Yeah, no worries.
Kyle Lowry wasn't himself from three. He was hucking up all those extra shots. He wasn't hitting them like he was at the start of the season, like he was at the end of last season. I really dislike how often Kyle Lowry just pulls up. By the way.
Oh, my goodness. Like, 5 times a game, he'll just be on a fast break and pull up.
But I think that the other teams in the East have excelled so much this season, like the Heat, like the Boston Celtics, like the Indiana Pacers, that it's going to be really tough to get out of the first round because you're likely going to be playing one of Boston, Miami, or Indiana. I'm a little bit worried about Indiana. I think we can take them down, but I'm a little bit like I'm not saying it's going to be an easy series. I'm worried about that series. You might be coming against Miami. And Jimmy Butler, the way he's been playing, the way that Miami team's been playing, they got a great starting five. Bam Adebayo has been tremendous this season.
I think he could be an all-star.
You've got Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero who are lights out on the perimeter. They've got everything they need to succeed. Dragic as well, running point guard.
Off the bench.
Off the bench, playing very well. You've got a very good team everywhere you look for the Miami Heat. This is a very good team. I would struggle to say right now that Toronto would beat Miami in a 7-game series. And I struggle to say they'd beat Boston in a 7-game series. As much as I don't like Boston, I don't think Boston are a contender in the East come playoff time.
I agree with you.
I don't know if the Raptors can take them down. I get we have one of the best defenses in the NBA. Our defensive rating is 5th. Offensive rating is 12th. But the star power is where it's a little bit lacking. Because I know Pascal Siakam has been playing like an MVP caliber player this season, but he can get shut down.
Very easily.
There are ways to shut down Pascal Siakam. I love Pascal Siakam. But there are some games where he has not shown up. So in the playoffs, is he going to show up consistently enough to be able to push Toronto over these good teams? That's a question mark. I'm not sure. I love Pascal Siakam. I think he can. I think he can be the guy in the playoffs who takes us past these teams. But you need Fred VanVleet to be like hitting his shots. You need Kyle Lowry to be hitting his shots. You need everybody playing well. You can't really have an off night from somebody who's important, like your Lowrys, your VanVleets, your Siakams. If you want to be able to succeed, man.
Like you need like
Gasol needs to help on offense as well because he's only putting 7 points per game this year.
He's great on defense and
he's a great court facilitator as well.
And he's a huge asset to the team. But I don't know how many times he gets a wide open shot and can't hit it, or like Gasol has a higher 3-point percentage than field goal percentage. I think it's like 36%.
It's close, but it's not more. His field goal percentage is 36.
It was
3-point percentage is 35.
Okay, it was more, but it's one of those things where like if that's what you're getting, like a guy who's shooting sub 40% in general, it's just not enough, and he knows that. Like he posted on his Instagram, like, you know, the Space Jam Michael's juice. He's literally like empty bottles squirting. So he knows he's got to be better. And on that side, if Marc Gasol can give you 10, 12 points per game, which he's like, that's not out of the offense. Like those are the shots he's taking. If he's more efficient, he gets those points.
Yeah.
If you give 10 or 12, that's a huge difference from the 5 or 6 he's giving you right now.
7.
Anyways, it is, and it helps, and it can space the floor a little bit more. It creates, and he's a great passer, and we know that. And then just with the bench, like I don't know, like the bench.
I love the bench.
The bench is great, and they battle, but I feel like the minutes are hard to come by. Like we're overusing some guys. Like,
I don't like Patrick McCaw. I don't think Patrick McCaw should play as much as he does. I don't think Malcolm Miller should really ever be on the floor.
Yeah.
I don't like Malcolm Miller. Chris Boucher, I think, is decent when he's limited his minutes. I really like Rondé Hollis-Jefferson. I really like Terrence Davis. I think Terrence Davis can offer you a lot off the bench. And I really like the Iceman Matt Thomas. I like these guys. I think Matt Thomas is a difference maker in some games.
I don't agree with you there.
He's a shooter, spot up
No,
shooter. You need a quick 6 points.
He does. No, and I agree. He's wet, but Matt Thomas is an awful defender. Like, awful. They literally have to do box and one when he's on the court for his 5 minutes of playing time that he's getting, because he's a defensive liability. He can't, box out. He can't keep you from driving past him. That inability. So he's got to learn the game a little bit more. I think he played in Australia, I want to say. But he's got to be able to play better defensively.
I think he played in Spain as well.
Okay. But he's got to be better defensively. And if he was better, he'd be similar to how Danny Green was. Like, if you're just able to run and just keep people in front of you, then you're serviceable and you can play. You know what I mean? But everyone can get by.
I don't think Matt Thomas is as bad as a defender as you're making him out to be.
You do know, like literally they run box and one when he's on the court.
Yeah, I don't think he's as awful.
Or they run
that's
horrendous.
That's horrendous.
That defense is for him. That defense is to hide, those sets are to hide the fact that he's not a good NBA defender. He's not an NBA defender right now. He's not.
I can agree, but I like him in his limited minutes. He's a difference maker when he gets on the floor.
Yeah, but he's playing 5 minutes, Jacob.
Playing 12 minutes. He's averaging 12 minutes a game.
I understand what you're saying, but he's not playing enough. He's not playing proper bench, close to starter. You're saying to have a difference in the game. Yeah, he can get you 6 points quickly. Absolutely, he's wet. But teams know that now, and it's not something where, he's gonna make a huge difference for your team. I don't he doesn't put the Raptors over the edge.
No, because I'm not saying
you can't. But that's what a difference maker is.
I'm saying he's a difference maker. When you're down by, let's say you're down by 8 points, bring him in, quick 2 threes. You can bring him off.
No, but that's okay.
He can get you back in a game. He can.
I agree. I agree. I'll agree with you there. I'll say yeah. He his shooting ability. He's wet. I understand that, but
through his career numbers abroad, not in the NBA, are 50, 40, 90 plus.
I know.
Well above that.
He's a very I know he's a very good shooter.
And he's shooting in the NBA. I know he's been injured, but in his 12 games, he's shooting 54%.
I understand.
From 3.
No, I know. I understand. Very limited shots and minutes, but yes, I understand. When it comes to the Raptors, Kyle Lowry can't be playing 40 minutes. Fred VanVleet can't be playing 40 minutes. Siakam can't be playing 39, 38 plus minutes. Those guys are going to have absolutely no gas when it comes to the playoffs. Nick Nurse, I know, he said he wants to have either Fred VanVleet or Pascal Siakam on the floor at all times. But there's got to be a point where some of the bench guys just got to be able to run the offense, or you got to get these guys down close.
Yeah, to 30, this is the problem, because I like these bench guys, but when they need to be the focal point, that's when there's a problem. When you see a bench 5 on the floor, the Raptors really struggle, which is a big deal.
And that's what I think.
Especially what you're saying about the minutes.
So that's what limits it, and the fact that these guys aren't able to kind of get it done and take over, or at least be, keep themselves in the game, and it limits, what they'll be able to do in the future. Because VanVleet's playing all-star caliber this year.
He should be an all-star.
I agree. That's why I'm saying. But he's also playing 40 minutes. The whole time Lowry's out, he's playing 40 minutes every single game. And that's not good for him. And Fred VanVleet's a very good player. And when it comes down to it, I think the players that are only played, 30 minutes or 32 minutes, all those extra minutes over all those NBA games, they tax you. And I just those players can be fresher when it comes to the start of the playoffs.
I think this is a great team because there's 6 guys averaging double digits. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson is averaging 8.2 points per game. Or did I say minutes?
I said points.
Double digits in points. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson's almost there. Love Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. One of my favorite players to watch right now for the Raptors, just because I just love the hustle. All day Hollis-Jefferson. But
I'm not your child.
But when it comes to playoffs and the star firepower is where it really counts, your best players. I think that the Raptors are a great deep team, great like 10-man team, but when you need to shorten that for playoffs, I think that might be a situation where they can start to struggle. I think second round is likely their fate this season. I can see them getting in a first round matchup and winning. Like Nick Nurse has proven that he can win with this team. I know he had Kawhi Leonard, but this team is still a force to be reckoned with in a certain degree. But you have to realize that their only star, like real star on this team, is Pascal Siakam. And unfortunate as it is, because I love Fred VanVleet, he's not quite at that superstar level. But I think he's on a good path this season. This is a career year for him, and I think he should be an all-star. But he's got to be able to maintain the way he's playing. And in the playoffs, like you said, they're going to run out of gas, I think, a little bit. I don't see them getting to the conference finals. I could see them losing first round. I could see them losing second round, unfortunately.
I agree.
That's the fate that I give the Toronto Raptors. It's kind of sad to say. It's kind of sad to go against your team a little bit, but you have to recognize the reality of the situation, even when you are talking about your NBA team. But that's all we have for this episode. Thank you again for listening to the Amateur Hour podcast. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at AmateurPDC. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow on Spotify. And keep coming back. We got daily uploads to keep you up to date with the sporting world.